I'm definitely not on Team Cheater. Like, I do not stand by what I did at all. It was not cool. It wasn't fair to Rachael, and it haunts me daily still.
Tino finally shares his side of the Rachael breakup. Casey has not been able to walk in 4 months, and Sierra is shading Michael A. We are here to break down the biggest Bachelor Nation news of the week. But before we get into all the tea, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you guys are new here. I'm your host, Zachary Reality, with Blakely McHugh. Blakely, happy Friday. How are we feeling today? Are you ready to get into these headlines?
I'm always ready to get into these headlines. It feels like it's been a very busy week for our Bachelor Nation, you know? I feel like there's so much for us to talk about, get caught up on, so I'm definitely ready.
Yeah, we got to talk about all of the drama with Paradise, but I think the biggest story of the week is that Tino went on Nick Viall's podcast and shared his side of the story. This was a long-awaited interview. It was supposed to happen a few weeks ago, but Tino was the one that wanted to push it because he was still processing things. He actually said that he's been going to therapy twice a week. He's been going to a psychologist. I wrote down some of the highlights for us to kind of discuss in regards to the breakup. And I think the biggest thing is that Tino wanted to take full accountability. He knows it was wrong that he cheated on Rachael. He also said he was ashamed and that he doesn't believe in cheating. It's not something that he wants to ever do again. He said that he was out with his friends during a time where him and Rachael were giving each other space. So drama started in their relationship when the promos started airing. So Tino did kind of say that he was a little jealous, I guess, of seeing Rachael with other guys and, you know, the promos. And once the noise started, it really took a toll on their relationship. Also with him being extremely insecure, long distance, and then Rachael was extremely busy. So they were really taking some time off. They were struggling for a lot of reasons. And that is why he cheated. He said that he kissed another girl. He knew it was wrong. He felt bad that he even dragged this other girl into the situation. He didn't tell Rachael right away. And then things got better in their relationship. Rachael put more effort into it. And then he felt so guilty about cheating. He finally told her a couple weeks later. And then we all saw what happened at the safe house visit where, you know, they were going to meet up to talk about it. And he got the word that there was going to be cameras there. And it was filmed, and we all saw this go down. Did you listen to Tino on the podcast? What were your main takeaways or thoughts on all this information?
Yeah, I did listen, and, you know, I think that he's clearly a different person with the cameras around, because I felt like his responses were much more, and he's obviously had time to reflect and think, and there's a lot less pressure. But I felt like if the way that he explained things and took accountability with Nick, if he would have done that with Rachael, I feel like they may be in a completely different place than they are now. Not saying that they would have been together, but maybe she would have been more open to giving them a second chance. It wouldn't have ended as nasty as it did on After the Final Rose. The problem with his safe house visit and then After the Final Rose is it just felt like he kept diminishing it, right? He said, it was just a little kiss. It was, this, or he kept trying to we were taking space. You said about the ring. There was so much deflection versus accountability. And I feel like during the interview, there were times where Nick tried to allow him the space to say, well, you did this because of X, Y, and Z. And Tino really was like, no, there was no excuse. What I just did was wrong. And, just because my head was here, it still wasn't right. And I felt like his response was a lot better than what we've seen previous.
Yeah, well, he also said that he blacked out after the final rose. He was in such a state of just like shock and panic. And it was really was just a mean environment for him. And he even also cleared up the Avon stuff, saying that Avon, called him the night or the day after, and they talked about it. And, he has no bad blood with Avon just showing up to support Rachael, and he understood why Rachael was so upset. Like, he literally gave her every, room to be upset. He was hurt when he was hurt, and he understood that Rachael was hurt. I think it was some beating around the bush in the interview. It just felt like there was a lot of talking in circles, and I don't know if that was just, like, on Nick not, like, facilitating it faster, because I really feel like we were just, like, going back and forth for a while. But ultimately, like, Tino did say that he felt really ashamed and that he's working on himself, and he took accountability. He still kind of feels a little bit of a dud to me. I just don't know how serious he ever took the engagement. And I don't even know if that, and that just didn't really come across to me in this interview with Nick, where he Like, how do you just not tell someone you cheated on them and then just like kind of play it off while we were being distant? Like, I mean, I'm glad he took accountability. Like, props to him for speaking his truth and even getting the courage to do this podcast. But the interview just left me feeling a little bit like, I think he needs more time to process. And then I want another interview in 2 months or 5 months or even a year.
I think we still do have a lot of questions, but it's also a very slippery slope because I think he probably doesn't want to say too much because he doesn't want to ruffle more feathers than he already has. You know, think about it in the sense of like, he got so much backlash that I think you'd be really, really, really careful with your choice of words and how much you say and how much you don't say, you know, when everything is being highly scrutinized. And at the end of the day, he's the one who did wrong. So I feel like he doesn't want to go. You know, it's hard to relive and go in depth in those moments. So I agree. I think we definitely could have gotten more from him. But I do feel like in my mind, he's gained some redemption. Like I'm moving on from Tino at this point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, we'll give him redemption. Like I said, we applaud him for even having the courage to go on the podcast. I think there are a lot of fans were frustrated that, you know, those things that happened personally between him and Rachael that they keep alluding to. He still alluded to more of like those personal things without giving any context. So I think a lot of us are just wondering, like, what are they talking about? You know, they don't have to tell us their private life, but then it's also just like, why bring up that there's things you don't want to talk about if you don't want to talk about them? It's almost like you're just teasing us for no reason. Yeah. Not that we even care that much, but obviously a lot of people are invested in what really went down. Yeah, there truly is just still a lot more questions. And there was a lot of things that weren't brought up in the interview that I would have liked to, you know, hear. Like, just like, how did you get on the show? And like, what did you know Rachael was going to pick you? Like, what did you think of your dad's Facebook post? Like, what do you do now? Like, what's up? Like, there was just like a lot of like running in circles about like the same thing where I just felt like the interview was just kind of lagging, and it was a really long interview. And I usually love Nick's tell-alls. Like I love the one that was from Nate. I love Shane from Love is Blind. Like, I mean, I think it was just that Tino, maybe he's just not a podcast person. Not everybody knows how to just get on and like tell everything.
Chat. I mean, you bring up a good point. We definitely needed the Facebook post. I'm surprised that like Bachelor Nation, even after the final rose, didn't bring up the Facebook post from Tino's dad. And meanwhile, you know, they went on this whole thing about reading Eric's text to the girl, right? Yeah. When Gabby and him are happy, where like they ignored all these other much bigger conflicts. The blackface, Tino's dad's Facebook post. I mean, I think there was so many other things that we cared about as viewers, as fans, as humanity, as people, over reading word for word Eric's text to this girl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is. I feel like this chapter is now closed. It seems like Rachael is getting herself into a better place, as well as Tino. Who knows if they'll ever reconcile? Obviously, they won't. And, you know, we wish Tino well. And, I mean, hey, it is what it is. So let us know your thoughts on the interview in the comments below. But we're going to move on to our next topic because Ciara is shading Michael A. from Bachelor in Paradise. So we all saw what happened last week on the episode where Michael A. broke up with Ciara, and it was the one that ended up self-eliminating. Even though she had the rose, he was the one that got to stay on the beach, and then it worked out great for him because Danielle came in the next day, and now Michael A. is starting to hit things off with Danielle, and they seem to be going strong, but Ciara is watching this all back on TV and making videos and reels about it and throwing some shade at Michael. And she's not being shy about it. She literally said in a caption, I hadn't thrown shade before, but this is me throwing it. And in her videos, she alludes to the fact that Michael used her to kill time before Danielle arrived on the beach, who also admitted to messaging Michael before the show as friends. So do we think Ciara has a reason to be upset? Is she just bitter? Like, what are you thinking about this?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think she's probably more bitter and upset to see that he just moved on right away, you know, right after her, she leaves. So I'm sure there's an element to her that's upset about that. It's hard to know how much, you know, is going on behind the scenes. You know, did Michael know that Danielle was coming? Did he get to stay because the producers wanted this love story between the two of them? I don't know. I want to believe that Michael is really pure and he wouldn't ever lead somebody on. It just doesn't seem like a Michael A. move.
Yeah, I think Ciara was just mad that there was a lot of excuses where he said he wasn't ready. And, they had all these intimate conversations, and Sierra really like invested a lot of herself into Michael A. And I think she just felt blindsided when, if you're watching the show as a viewer, it's kind of clear that Danielle and Michael A were supposed to be set up all along by producers. I mean, she literally came in and saved him at the last hour for the rose ceremony, and now all of a sudden they're hitting things off, and they were friends before the show. So I understand why Sierra felt some type of way about it, but I also think that it's obvious from watching the show that Michael A and Danielle are just more compatible. They both went through a traumatizing experience, which is really bonding them on the show right now. And it's clear that they're a better fit, and that Sierra and Michael A were never going to work. So that's why I think Sierra is upset. I think because she just felt like, if this was the plan all along, why am I hanging around? Because she invested herself in Michael A. So I understand why Sierra is a little disappointed. Yeah. She should have been able to stay on the beach and talk to other guys.
But she could have. She decided, I mean, I guess, again, we don't know everything that's going on, but she could have. She had the rose, so she could have stayed on the beach. She could have talked to other guys. She could have waited for somebody else. I think that there obviously was things that went on behind the scenes because, I mean, Michael and Danielle have just come together so quickly. It seems odd that their relationship would flourish so fast if there wasn't something kind of already brewing underneath the surface. But we see this time and time again. I mean, right? Didn't Johnny just tell Gabby he wasn't ready? And then, now all of a sudden he's on Bachelor in Paradise.
Victoria.
And he's exactly. So, it is a cop out to a degree. It's easier to say I'm not ready versus to say, we're not compatible. There's something missing here, because it takes the heat off of it being an individual person versus it being on you saying I'm not ready versus the other person. And I think it is a little like, don't use your wife's story that you're not ready if you're then going to be ready for the next person right afterwards. So there's a little bit of a fine line that maybe there was, that was crossed a bit going on. I think Sierra definitely has a reason to, have maybe some negative feelings.
For sure. She felt let on. I mean, she felt used, and she felt like, the reasons that he gave her, why they broke up, he was able to kind of move on to someone the next day, and she's kind of watching this on TV. Does she need to be making a bunch of videos about it? Maybe not. No. I feel like she's made her point clear. She really is going on and on and on about it. And, I think that there will be a reunion for them to discuss it in a few weeks. So I look forward to seeing her, come at him. But I also think that, let's not get in the way of Danielle and Michael's happiness, because clearly they actually like each other regardless if there was a show or not. Which, then again, is the problem, because they could have just met in the real world since they were talking, but they had to go on this show, and there had to be this whole thing. So, I mean, I totally am also on board with justice for Sierra, because she totally missed an opportunity to meet other guys on the beach. But maybe that was on her, as you mentioned. She was the one that self-eliminated. Yep. She was the one that wasn't making other connections. So, we'll see. Let's get into our next topic. Casey, he has not been able to walk in 4 months. Were you shocked by this? Because you saw the fall.
Yes. Well, and I feel bad because I've been, giving Casey a little bit of a hard time for not being able to handle the heat of Mexico. And now here he hasn't been walked in 4 months. I mean, you just don't think, you don't think of people getting injured on Bachelor in Paradise because, well, they're not doing anything to injure yourself, But,
well, and the fall fell.
I know, and the fall didn't look like he would have hurt himself, like it didn't look like anything other than he passed out. So then to hear he hasn't walked in 4 months, and I think he said too that when he went on Bachelor in Paradise, he was in his spiritually, mentally, physically in the best place he has ever been, and that couldn't be further from the truth now, which makes me so sad.
So obviously we saw him fall when he was standing next to Rodney, who was trying to help him out at first, but then there was a little bit of drama that Casey was involved in regards to Brittany and Peter, which also kind of went into the fact that he did get so dizzy and fall. And some people were coming at Rodney on social media for maybe not holding him because he was dizzy. Yeah. But Casey did go on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast. First of all, he did say that he left with the beach with 3 broken bones. He hasn't been able to walk. But he went on the podcast saying that Andrew was the one that called him out and was yelling at him on the beach, but it wasn't shown because he was the one that told Brittany what Peter Pizza was saying, calling Brittany a clout chaser. So Casey told Brittany what Peter was saying because, he thought he was doing the honorable thing and letting Brittany know what was being said, especially because they had some sort of connection. I'm pretty sure they gave each other the first rose ceremony. But a lot of people were starting to paint Casey as the villain, including Andrew, because they thought that Casey was like starting the drama. And we kind of saw that even in the ambulance. Michael A. was talking to Casey about it. They thought he was like stirring it up. And it kind of got even messier because then Andrew went on Instagram, saying that Brittany, didn't get a chance to defend herself on Matt James's season. So, she deserved to defend herself, which I don't really understand because I felt like Casey was trying to give Brittany the opportunity. Did you catch all this drama? What are you thinking?
I mean, to further your point, Zach, it doesn't make sense either, because if Andrew's saying, referring to Matt James's season, right, when Brittany couldn't stand up for herself, but then he's also trying to keep Brittany from confronting Pete about it. So how's she going to be able to stand up for herself? I mean, none of it makes sense. I think that these people needed to remember that this is a show. It's a reality show. Things are manipulated. Drama is on purpose. It doesn't mean, I think that they're making it too much real life. Like it is, but it's also not. You're all brought on a beach to date each other, and you're selected specifically because of what you bring and who you might pair for. There's so much that's calculated and manipulated, and I feel like that's getting lost at the moment with the people who are a part of it.
I mean, at the end of the day, this whole thing was just messy. I think Peter Pizza had to leave, and honestly, just justice for Casey. He fell and he can't walk, so
I know.
None of this other petty
so
drama
bad.
matters. No, seriously, like that's so sad. So hopefully he gets better soon. Maybe he'll make it to the reunion to give us an update. And I mean, I'm just looking forward to this reunion because reunions are always good.
Yeah.
I know they're filming it in a few weeks, so we'll be able to get some tea before it airs. Some other things that happened in Bachelor Nation this week is that Cassie Randolph, she went on the Almost Famous podcast, and she basically said that she is just so happy that Colton is like free. He feels relieved that he's not holding that secret anymore of being gay. And I mean, she's really moved on with her life. I feel like she's done a lot of interviews about Colton since their whole, situation. But I guess the new information is that she's happy that he feels relieved.
I'm glad that she's speaking about him in a positive light, because it was really rocky with them for a while. And they wouldn't, specifically, she completely removed herself from the spotlight, from any involvement with Bachelor Nation. She wouldn't do any interviews, like we haven't heard from her in a long time. And so I'm just happy that she's able to speak about him in a positive light, and maybe that they've come to some kind of resolution between the two of them and have found peace. And so that's what I took away from it.
Yeah, they definitely have found peace. I mean, we did see her, though, at one of the tell-alls recently. I think it was Clayton's season. Yeah.
We did. So she's been slowly integrating back in. But it was for a while there wasn't a lot we got from her.
Yeah, and I know she has a YouTube channel where she kind of, does some lifestyle and vloggy stuff. So feel free to keep up with her. And I don't know what Colton's up to, but I feel like he's always traveling somewhere. Now, Rachael Kirkconnell actually also did an interesting interview this week. She was on Bree Spring's podcast, who was also on her season. And she said a lot of interesting things about, like, Matt James and their relationship. But something I thought was funny is she cleared up her beef with Tyler. I did post a clip of it on my TikTok, but she basically said that there was never beef with Tyler. Tyler and Matt just don't hang out anymore because they used to hang out every day when it was the pandemic. Now they live in different states. And she just said that, like, Tyler just, kind of talks out of his ass sometimes in those interviews, and that there is kind of a love-hate, but it's just not that deep, and it never was. So why do you think that these Bachelor stars, like, just don't clear up their tea until months later? Do you think it's just because they want everyone to talk about them? Because she could have cleared this up so long ago.
Yeah, I think it has to do with a few things, but what I want to say on a side note is Tyler is just kind of messy in these interviews. I mean, he even got in trouble with Paige Lorenz, because she was like, he went on and said we broke up. Like, what the heck? So I feel like maybe he's just messy a little bit in interviews. I think this one may be the reason why Rachael and Matt really don't do a lot of interviews or a lot of press stuff. So I'm sure there was a comfortability level because it was with Bree, somebody who was on her season that she has a connection and relationship to. So I think that that's probably why she spoke on it, was because she's talking with somebody that she does know that she is comfortable with. But I don't know, maybe they think like they're just going to add more fuel to the fire when they speak on it right away. So they wait.
Yeah. Well, I think it adds, I think they just want to be relevant and have people talk about them because it's not going to add more fuel. It actually will decrease the fuel if you just call it out immediately.
True.
And you can't blame them. I mean, if they want to get more people talking about them so they can get more brand sponsorships and followers, then it is part of the game. And this is what happens when you're an influencer. So, you know, it is what it is. Also, something interesting is Ashley and Jared, they did an interview with Entertainment Tonight this week, and they shared that they were going to be at the Bachelor in Paradise reunion, and now fans are starting to think that they're going to announce a pregnancy.
Didn't they just have a baby?
Well, the baby's like 1 now, so maybe they'll have another.
Was it a year ago?
Yeah, Dawson. I don't know exactly how old he is. I didn't realize
it's been that long.
Yeah, and they were also shocked to see that they were getting so much screen time as well because they were only there for 3 nights. But it ended up, you know, going 4 or 5 episodes. So do you want to see them again at the reunion? Do you think it's necessary?
No, I don't want to see them again.
Okay, fair enough.
I think
they should have just hosted it. They should have just hosted the season.
I wonder, maybe the baby was conceived in the boom boom room and that's why they're coming back for the reunion.
That's what I'm saying. Because why else are they going to come back? Like, they must have a special announcement, but I guess it's not really the best thing to speculate on pregnancy. But hey, this is Bachelor Nation. We're all wondering what's going on. Well, those are our biggest headlines and stories for the week. So definitely let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you watching Paradise? What do you think is going to happen? What did you think of Tino's interview? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe before you head out of here. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality with Blakely McHugh. Come say hi to us on our social medias on the screen right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.